Yo, what up everybody's boy Goose, and welcome to the channel.
In this video, we're going to showcase the Ghost Candy custom Yu-Gi-Oh deck. This video was inspired by leftover candy from spooky season. So while they're not quite dead yet, but has been leftover or Borgin branded, discounted leftover candy has been a thing for some time now. Thus, the Ghost Candy archetype was born.
Now the overall theme of the deck is to have your opponent draw cards so you can activate your effect.
While all the cards in this archetype has your opponent drawing one card as part of their effect, much like getting candy as a discount, you do benefit from it. As we go down the list of cards, we will see how each of them provides the benefit. With all that being said, let's go down the list.
For our monsters, they each have two criteria or conditions for their effects. When your opponent draws one card from their deck, this is to ensure you're able to apply their following effects, and it's a once per turn effect, which is also a quick effect during your turn only, so therefore you can make sure your card effects can apply. Secondly, when your opponent draws a card from the deck except during the draw phase, they each have a specific effect to apply. This effect is similar to the Trickster archetype, where anytime your opponent adds a card to their hand, they get burned for 200 life points. Now, this deck doesn't burn your opponent, but anytime your opponent draws a card outside their draw phase, these monsters can apply their effects. Like our first card here, Ghost Candy Trick or Treat Tour. Now, when your opponent draws a card outside their draw phase, you get to add one Ghost Candy spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Now, during the end phase, if your opponent drew a card or cards due to a Ghost Candy effect, they must shuffle one random card from their hand to the deck. Next up, we have Ghost Candy Ghoul. Now, when your opponent draws a card outside their draw phase, you can add one Ghost Candy monster from your deck to your hand, and once per turn, this card is not destroyed by battle. Next up, we got Ghost Candy Vampy. Now, Vampy here can protect your Ghost Candy monsters from being targeted by card effects, and it can attack directly. Like Pop Rocks, we have Ghost Candy Poppy, who protects your monsters from being affected by spell cards. Like a Tootsie Roll, we have Ghost Candy Tootsie. Now, this card protects Ghost Candy monsters from trap cards. From the Caramel Candy, we have Ghost Candy Sugar. Now, this card can specially summon itself from the hand or the graveyard and protect Ghost Candy monsters from monster effects. Closing out our monsters is our Candy Cane Pumpkin Ghost Candy Mini. Now, this card can special summon itself from the hand or the graveyard once per turn, and when your opponent draws a card outside the draw phase, they are prevented from special summoning that turn. This card is very similar to the Artifact Scythe card, which prevents your opponent from special summoning from the extra deck when it's special summoned. Now onto our spell and trap cards. First off, we have our field spell, Ghost Candy Party. Now when this card is activated, both players draw one card. Ghost Candy monster effects cannot be negated. Your Ghost Candy monsters gain 300 attack and defense for each card in your opponent's hand, and this card cannot be destroyed when your opponent has cards in their hand. Next up is Ghost Candy Art Change. Now this card has your opponent draw one card as part of its effect, and you get to specially summon one Ghost Candy monster from your hand or your graveyard. Starting our trap cards, we have Abstract Ghost Candy. Now your opponent draws one card as part of the effect. While your opponent has more cards in their hand than you do, Ghost Candy monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. During the end of each turn, if your opponent draws cards due to a Ghost Candy card effect, they must shuffle that many cards from their hand into the deck. That means if your opponent drew 3 cards due to 2 of your Ghost Candy card effects, they must shuffle 3 cards randomly from their hand back into the deck. Closing out the cards, we have Ghost Candy Rush. Now this kind of trap, when your opponent activates the card effect, your opponent draws one card, negate the effect, and destroy the card. Neither player can activate the name of that negated card for the rest of the turn. And that about does it for this video. Comment down below your favorite card of the deck, what cards can I add into this deck, and what custom deck should I make next? Comment all that down below. Like and subscribe to know when I post next. And with that being said, I'm sending positive vibes and kindness to everyone, and keep things PG. Positively Goose. Bye guys.